I am Lady V, and I will catch up with you on the next pit stop. God bless, and long live Calypso.
Good evening and welcome to HIGH5 Reloaded. I'm your host, Crystal Gift. Well, I don't think it takes much knowing to appreciate that tonight's topic is going to be Mr. Duke's or, the activity he engaged in this afternoon. But before we get on to that, and I ask the questions in relation to that, whether it's representation or political gimmickry, I think we should take a moment to note, and it hopefully will come up in discussion as we go on, the sudden resignation of Mr. LaHunt. Now, it would appear that it is something correctable. And I imagine if it's a question that you're not, I imagine if it's an issue that says you can't be a senator in this country if you have taken an allegiance to another country. While we can hold dual citizenship here, usually when you acquire citizenship for a second country by having to declare or swear to some undertaking, that usually disqualifies you from politics here, because the way how our laws are written, you can't hold another allegiance. Now, if you're born in another country, that's slightly different, because you would have acquired citizenship naturally in the sense of having been born there. Well, what I remember about, what struck me about today's incident with the announcement by the Prime Minister's office that there will be that recall of his appointment, was how the Prime Minister so easily regarded the situation on the port in words that suggested that there was some political corruption, or some sort of a corruption, sorry. Now, with all the things that have gone on in the port, there may well be corruption, but I didn't hear him give or provide any evidence of it. And today, to me, the idea of appointing somebody without checking citizenship, knowing quite well that he held a position in a Ghanaian, I think it is a Ghanaian bank, because according to what was said, the Prime Minister had visited the country at a point in time when he received the Prime Minister holding a position in that particular bank. If therefore you go to appoint a senator and it's suddenly found out after the fact that the man has another nationality, that to me either smacks of incompetence or somebody made a mistake. Now, if that is the situation here, that is with LaHunt, perhaps somebody made a mistake with the boat acquisition. I just don't like the idea of a Prime Minister using such strong language generally to describe a circumstance which tarnishes so many people, and yet we kind of accept this whole situation with LaHunt as, well, somebody made a mistake. There are points in times, surely, when the buck stops at the top with the Prime Minister, and clearly you are the man appointing somebody, and that's not a thing that you check or that's checked. Well, I would expect heads to roll, but I guess that doesn't happen in this country anymore. You fail and you go on with your job and your life. And we, as citizens of this country, we are the ones who are prejudiced by those kinds of decisions. So we come back to tonight's topic, that of whether this situation with Mr. Duke and his party, whether that represents representation or political gimmickry. Well, Here to discuss the matter with me this evening is Mr. Jason Atta. We have another panelist. We had two other panelists, but one had an unfortunate illness and will not be participating, and the second one we believe is late. But we got to keep to our time, and so we are going on with Mr. Atta. Mr. Atta, welcome to HIGH5 Reloaded again.
Thank you very much.
So, we're talking about Mr. Watson Duke. I think lots of people would have seen the event today. It would have been broadcast on HIGH5 Reloaded, not HIGH5 Reloaded, Channel 5. It would also have been the topic on, I think, CNC3 this afternoon, top of the news. So I asked the question, do you have any idea of the purpose behind what Mr. Duke and his party did this afternoon? Sorry.
Well, I would first say that the intent obviously would have had to have been to get attention for the issue, or more attention than the issue has been garnering. Beyond that, when I heard him speak this morning, he spoke as though this act was the beginning of them, and when he said them, he talked about the entire assembly being able to take more control of specifically the negotiations for a boat. I don't know necessarily how far he's going to get with that, but definitely I know that the intention was to get more attention for the topic, for the issue. Further than that, I mean, you can well imagine that obviously it puts him and his party in a sort of a better position, if you want to call it that, in terms of being viewed as really fighting for Tobago and that kind of stuff. If you're on the ground, and I'm on the ground, you do realize right now that that seems to be the Achilles heel of Mr. Charles. He's not being viewed in that particular light right now because people think that he's being a little bit too quiet. And so I think that Watson sees that now as an opportunity. And I don't want somebody to say, well, you know, you're saying he's not interested in the boat, it's just political opportunism. I think that those two things just cannot be separated. It just doesn't work like that in politics, right? If you're going to represent the people, you're going to be seen representing the people, you're going to look as though you're representing the people, and obviously it's going to present itself as an opportunity for you as well. So I don't think you can de-link them. But I do think that the intention was to get more attention for the issue, certainly.
Mm. Well, perhaps a good starting point would be to hear from Mr. Duke himself as to the reasons for today's activity, this morning's activity. So we have a short clip to run, and we'll have it now.
We are ready. This swim protest tomorrow is done with Tobago in mind. I say to them, it's by any means necessary, and we will hold fast to that. The idea is not to prove that you're the best swimmer out to make the Guinness World Book of Records, but the idea is to ensure that Tobago is placed on the national agenda. And if nothing is done within short measure, short order, what will happen? We may actually be forced to swim and go back to trading using fisher boat, canoes, etc. This is the reality.
Right. And during that interlude, we were joined by Mr. Frederick. Frederick, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Giff, and good evening to your viewers.
All right. All right. So we heard from Mr. Duke. Do you agree with his? I jump in you right in.
Right.
Do you agree with his expressed position as to what is intended to be done by the activity today?
In the Tobago space, there are challenges. One of the challenges is our ability to move freely to and from Trinidad. That's a challenge that exists. And as any right-thinking Tobagonian would want this challenge rectified in the shortest possible time. I am of the belief that the action taken by Mr. Duke today did little to rectify and or address this issue that is affecting us. I felt that as a people, we must recognize that we are all affected by this. And as such, we must all work towards a singular solution to this problem. I would believe that democracy should never be as divisive as we tend to market it. And so leaders can come together and work towards solving the problems that affect the people that they represent. So my expectation was that Mr. Duke and his team, recognizing that, one, they don't have the kind of information that the chief secretary and his team may have, that they would advocate for a position on this committee that is evaluating and selecting the best vessel to service the route Trinidad to Tobago. Swimming to Trinidad or showing that one cannot swim to Trinidad does little to me to address this concern.
All right. Well, in fact, Jason, you have a response you want to make?
Right. So, you know, one of the issues I have when I'm talking to someone and they say to me that this thing doesn't do that thing, my question is, well, what did this thing propose to do in the first place? And I think that Frederick, as well as a number of other people, are subjecting the thing to something that it never intended to achieve.
Actually, I'll tell you something. Today, this morning, is the first time he has said what he's saying. Because that's all the other instances of his being reported on in respect of what was behind this particular activity, I didn't understand it to be what he's saying now. And quite frankly, I couldn't understand how what he was doing would advance the Tobago's situation any better. So I hear what you're saying, but just understand that that Pripri run is the best explanation of what this exercise was about than he had said before. And that had been noted in the media.
Right, and I don't know, I mean, you're saying what he had said.
Clippings.
Yeah, and you're saying what he had said before. I don't know that he necessarily contradicted what he said before, or if he actually spent time to really flesh it out. He
didn't contradict himself. He just didn't say that, and the explanations that he was giving.
But that's fine. Let me finish what I'm saying. My contention is, some people are saying, okay, and then what? How does this get us a boat? And my thing is this. One, as far as the how does this get us a boat is concerned, I don't know that Watson ever went there to get a boat, right? Because Watson can't get a boat.
What was it about?
What was the intention?
Okay, and I think I just said it. I think he was trying to garner more attention with respect to the issue. Let me say this. In a democracy, as far as I am concerned, part of the problem that we have in Trinidad and Tobago and in a lot of democracies is getting people to actually pay attention to what is going on. This particular situation has all kinds of things going on. You have questions about procurement. You have questions about corruption. You have questions about quality of the boat. You have questions about this, that, and the other. And the thing about it is this. The fact is, in our country, and in most democracies, you have a small group of people making the decisions about all of these things, okay? And what oftentimes they hope is that nobody is paying attention. And what I'm saying to you is this. I used to be a staff writer, managing editor, and editor of a newspaper. And I could say this right now. I am pretty certain that no editor in the country is going to refuse any story concerning this issue. And one thing that we need to understand right now is that because the issue is so multifaceted, you really need to read everything about the issue. And having an editor or editors around the country who are willing to not say to you, oh, you brought 2 stories on that, that's enough. And they're willing to say, you know what, okay, bring the 4th story and the 5th story and the blah, 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 so that people can get this piece and that piece and the other piece and whatever, so they can start to understand the issue fuller. To me, is exactly what you want in a democracy. And I feel as though a lot of the arguments here about why it shouldn't have been done, or it didn't do this, or it didn't do that, are not addressing the part of the issue that relates to the democracy. Why you all don't want more attention on the issue? Why is this about, well, it wouldn't get us about? It doesn't have to get us about.
But Crystal...
Wait, hold on. I'm going to allow you to come in shortly, but we need to take a break. In the meantime, consider the question. If at this point in time, without Watson doing what he did, if there hasn't been a considerable amount of publicity on this issue as it is at this point in time, we're going to take a break at this point in time.
No, I love my beautiful Trinbago. I think we all do. But you see this thing called crime? Crime is becoming a norm. It's as though criminals are using our country as their own space to perform. It's as though they have a calling. Meanwhile, bodies falling, mothers mourning, and killers walking free in the streets of TNT, and still nobody talking. So when you see crime, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call 800-TIPS or go online at crimestopperstt.com. It's an international system, it works, and it's anonymous. So decide to pick a side, because when everyone is watching, they can't hide.
It's called integrity, because it's, sort of about me,
Remove headphones and avoid using cellular phones while crossing the road.
Pay attention when you're crossing the road, man.
Explore the lives of the most influential people in Tobago on the new season of the TV documentary series Community Legends. Relive their biggest achievements and their fiercest struggles.
You give them your hand and they become aggressive. Both of you die.
I would feel a little hurt to see how the people are dancing around with this internal self-government.
A new episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Tobago, Channel 5.
And I have as my guests Jason Arthur and Mr. Joseph Frederick. And we're discussing the activity of Mr. Watson Duke and his party in leaving by sea from Tobago for Togo earlier this morning and their subsequent return. Now, Frederick, Jason was making the point that he feels that what has been achieved is some attention to this circumstance of Tobago's sea transportation. What is your comment on it?
Mr. Giff, the people of Trinidad and Tobago have, over the last couple of months, been provided with a large amount of information relating to the challenges that Tobagonians and Trinidadians face in traversing the islands. So I do not know how much more attention this action has brought, but what I know is that it has, for some people, given them greater political capital. And I believe that our challenge in our space is that we somehow always tend to operate in this election mode of a lifestyle and a political dynamic. And I'm saying that we need to get to that space where we recognize that after the election, it's no longer we and them. I heard Jason speaking to the fact that there's some group that does not want persons to get the information. And I'm saying that I don't know which group that is, because somehow this swim has taken us off of the real issue. And the real issue is that here's what, as a people, we must work together to one, because we have all been championing it at some point in time. We must all work together to one, to bring Tobago to that more autonomous position. It is dependent on our level of productivity. Two, we must ensure that we have an appropriate vessel to service the route. One is much more important than two. And so, rather than having us, the collective, coming together and focusing on how can we improve the space in Tobago, we have made some political gimmicks. And we have this lovely show that the average Tobagonian does nothing to further and improve their quality of life.
Right, so let me just say one thing. I certainly didn't say that anybody was hiding any information from anyone.
But you spoke to a group of persons that did not want the information to come out.
I certainly know that I didn't say that. I don't know what you heard, but I know what I did not say. And what I said was, in a nutshell, that the actions, antics, whatever you want to call, of today and the lead up today has created an atmosphere where any morsel of information produced about this situation will be accepted by any news editor across the country. And I am saying, because of how multifaceted this particular boat situation is, and all the accusations flying around about corruption, this, that, and whatever the case may be, for you, Joseph Frederick, for me, Jason Arthur, for you, Crystal Gift, and for many of us to understand the situation better, we need to read more. And I am saying that in some scenarios, because, as we always say in Trinidad and Tobago, we're only interested in an issue for 9 days, understand, it's not just we being interested in the issue for 9 days. The editors and the people on the side who produce news, they are gauging us. And so when they feel we've had enough, they also pull back. And I'm saying, unless there is something going on to extend our interest beyond the 9 days, so that the editors say, yes, bring that story again and bring the other one, so that we can read and better get a fuller understanding, then I don't particularly understand what.
So Watson's activity today, the show today, was to extend our interest in the situation. You're saying that at this present time, the average Tobagoan is not feeling the stress on the port and at the airport to travel to and from Trinidad.
You're asking me a question.
I'm getting that from what you're saying, and I'm saying...
I am not telling you what they're feeling. I am saying, I am talking about an interest in a story. At the end of the day, you may be interested in this story because you are feeling a particular way.
This is for the media then? This was for the media then?
If I think this is for the media?
Yes, a PR stuff.
I mean, at the end of the day, you see, I think what you all are talking about is not what I'm interested in. Here's what I mean by that. No, I'm answering your question. Here's what I mean by that. I do not separate what politicians do when they say they're going out there for the people from show. A lot of times, both of them twin together. I'll give you just a very sort of quick example. We used to do a show called the Lyrical Lounge years ago in Saturday.
You know what it sounds like? We are agreeing to the same thing. It's just that we're calling it by different names. But go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. And I remember when a gentleman by the name of Peter Todd got killed, German guy. He used to come to the show all the time. And we had to make a decision. We're going to have this special show for Peter. And I remember, like, the day before, maybe 2 days before we had the show, you know what I started thinking to myself? Man, it feels as though we're having this show, we're going to get more publicity from it, and this guy is dead, and I feel like as though like I'm using his death. And in talking to a couple of other people, you know, they were like, Jason, there's no other way to do this. You know, that it's just going to go together. Now, again, I'm saying, with respect to Watson's thing, okay, I'm sure he's trying to get attention. I'm sure he's trying to do this. I'm sure he's trying to do all of that. I don't care about that. The only part of this I care about is the extra attention the issue has gotten. For me, when I hear Joseph talk and a number of other people talk, it's almost as though like they are the attention police. This issue has gotten enough attention. I don't know how we determine that. I don't know how we measure it. And therefore, it doesn't. I'm trying to figure out what harm could the issue getting more attention create? What?
Jason, you're missing me.
Perhaps the problem here
clarify.
is the issue didn't get the attention, but the personalities did. That is
how can we say that though?
Because you know, I tell you something. If
so, when the issue dies tomorrow, would people not read the newspaper because of this?
I hadn't had that series run by TV6, where Basant did so many stories on the vessel and kept the thing alive. I would have said, yes, somebody needs to bring this. Something needs to be done to make this a little more public. But I guess I am mindful that this is Mr. Duke's first sortie into this area, in the sense of, okay, this is the first time he seemingly is doing something for the public, and perhaps when he comes for the second and the third and the fourth time, he'll be a lot more focused. Because quite frankly, I believe there are issues more potent, more cogent to the getting something done and attracting public's attention to the issue that have so far have been missed. This whole idea of, I do not think that this issue is short on attention or publicity, okay? How do you now exploit that beyond what is already being done by the swim? What of the situation of how do you get a boat? What is the role of the Tobago House of Assembly? What is happening with the Tobago, that particular legislation in Parliament about Tobago's autonomy? What is happening on those issues? Perhaps we need to, the fact that there is something to go to Parliament that has taken so long, it hasn't yet gone to Parliament, we don't know what it says. Those are the issues that require our exploitation. The fact that the Tobago House of Assembly has a role to play, and yet the Chief Secretary appears to be quiet on the matter. It may be said that he knows more, but at this point in time, given that the vessel didn't come when it's supposed to come, is not available, we're not going to have one for a few more months. It seems to me that he doesn't know enough to make him know more than me, because otherwise everything should have been done and it should have been here. The fact that that hasn't happened now raises concerns in my mind. What the heck is he doing? Dan Frederick.
I hear the point for attention on the issue, but I think for the average Tobagonian, what they want is a solution. And I believe that the first act that the alternative to the THA administration should have taken was an act that says, here is what. We recognize that you in the THA seem to have some problem. I am reaching out to you. Let us sit down and put one of my persons who I believe, because I'm the alternative to the government. If this government goes down in the morning, or if there's an election in the morning and this team wins, then they are the ones in charge. So you have ideas as to how to resolve some of the issues that exist, given the information. So get one of my persons to get on board of the committee and let us work towards addressing the issue that affects all Tobagonians. It's not a them and we. It's a Tobago people that are being affected. And yes, we could swim as much as we want, but at the end of the day, people need to know that goods can come from Trinidad to Tobago. They need to know that they can go down to a funeral or a wedding or to a graduation or to school. They need to know that. So we as the collective must work together.
Bear in mind, you can still go. So the area of vulnerability in what is happening now is the uncertainty of it and how long it takes to get that done. So your
people playing politics is playing politics.
Trinidad within 2.5 hours has gone out of the door. We're taking 4.5 hours. And how much can we do after getting to Trinidad at that point in time? And so on and so on and so on. There are areas I would like to see Mr. Duke focus on that exposes the vulnerability of this government on this issue. This whole, the getting of a fast ferry in time for this season that has just been lost, the tourism season, that's another big area for exploitation, in the sense of if a case is presented as to what the government knew, when it ought to have acted, why it didn't act, why trying to get it when it did would have brought something of the results that it did. The fact that we're trying to get a fast ferry replacement during the high season, but those things aren't. There's not much availability of that, except junk that may be available.
But one must be guided by the fact, Mr. Gift, that these issues would have arose at a particular time, and it takes some time to go on the market and get a vessel.
All right.
So I'm saying that we really need to be more committed towards ensuring that the people of Tobago are served and not the politics, because I'm hearing people saying if an election were to be held in the morning, Mr. Duke would have win. And it seems like that is the primary concern. It's not about resolving and dealing with the issues that affect the Tobago people.
We'll continue with the comments after this break.
Explore the lives of the most influential people in Tobago on the new season of the TV documentary series Community Legends. Relive their biggest achievements and their fiercest struggles.
You give them your hand and they become aggressive. Both of you die.
I would feel a little hurt to see how the people are dancing around with this internal self-government.
A new episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Tobago, Channel 5. Tune in to Spot On. A new episode premieres every Tuesday at 8 p.m. only on Tobago, Channel 5.
Right, and we're back, and we're discussing the swim. When I say swim, I need for it to be understood that it wasn't entirely a swim across. It was, as he says, by any means necessary, and apparently what was involved was there was some riding a boat.
I think being
pulled behind a jet ski and things like that, and so on. And besides, people don't go for a swim like that and wear a life vest. The two are inconsistent. But I understand what he perhaps attempted to do.
We are all guessing what the intention was.
No, we played a clip in which he said...
Well, we're still all guessing, because although that is in the space, persons are suggesting that the intention was so many things that it's impossible for us to go to swim to Trinidad, and hence we need a vessel and all kinds of things you see circulating in the social media. But again, I want to go back to
Before you do go back, let me play, we have a set of Mr. Duke's comments after he returned to Tobago earlier this evening.
It's not what next, it's what continues. Because then our next is a continuation. What we hyped over the swimming was a conversation. And the conversation simply says that Tobago must make decisions for Tobagonians on the sea bridge and the air bridge. And we are clear about that. The final decision must come from us. Bring it back to the House of Assembly, where all 12 assemblymen with 4 councillors discuss the matter. We are clear about it in our minds. You cannot have Trinidad making a decision for us while we are in absentia. Cannot happen. We will not tolerate it. It's illegal. It's poor democracy. It's poor governance. There's no transparency in that.
Well, I think I understand what he's saying, but I don't think it's all that accurate, because nothing is illegal about what government is doing at this point in time. That's how the system is set up. It's not the first time decisions would have been made in respect of the fast ferry or a service between the islands, and there is a company, there is an institution that deals with that. And I think he needs to take into the picture now the fact that government has said it's committed to transferring the control of the ferry system to Tobago. Now, if I were him, that is where I would start off. That is what needs to be done. I don't want it to be done in 2 years or 5 years' time. I want to know, what committee have you set up to ensure that that is done at the earliest time? What opportunity are you giving for the opposition to be in?
That's right.
That is how I expect to see you pressure
expect.
this government now and the assembly on that situation.
So let me ask a question. We sit here and we talk about what we think he should have done now, right? and I don't know if we presume to also say or to think that, you know, he should do this next or whatever the case may be. Everything you have just said there, maybe he's about to do that. I don't know. I have no clue what it is he's about to do. I think we could sit all day and ponder about what he should and shouldn't and blah blah blah. When we came here this evening, my issue was, and still is, I just don't understand. You know, I hear Joseph talking about, you know, it's all about politics and this and that and blah blah blah, and I don't necessarily know when it
seems to be.
I don't necessarily know when it isn't. Right? I don't know when it is or isn't, and quite frankly, I don't care. I think even talking about we don't know exactly what his intent was, I don't care. I don't have to know exactly what his intent was. Here's what I do know.
One of the challenges in this space is that people just don't care anymore. We need to care a bit more as a society.
No, he knows what I mean, right? He's just playing
politics.
Yeah, right?
Playing Watson.
Right, yeah. He knows exactly what I mean. What I'm saying is this. I'm not trying to read Watson's mind. I know that there are probably more people now interested in this issue than there were before. And I am not here to get into it had enough interest and blah, blah, blah. For the life of me, I cannot understand the obsession over it had already enough attention.
There's no such who's obsessed with that?
But listen, but you've already said for the evening that it already had attention, and what that says. Hold on. I'll let you finish. And what that says to me, if I say the issue got more attention, and you say it already had attention, then by virtue of that response, you are saying it had enough attention. That's what you're saying ultimately. No. Well, I don't know what it is. So what is he saying then? Okay, well then what it is he's actually saying?
Well,
when he says to me,
I'm saying that.
But because I didn't say. Well, let me say this. I never said this evening the issue got attention, right? If I had said that, and then he said, it already had attention. No, I said it got more attention. And then his response was it already had attention. So it sounds as though like
I'm not in, right.
We're doing guesswork here again.
I guess no. Right? Well, tell me what you meant.
I do not know
what you meant.
I do not know how many people in the space.
That's it. I think it may well be said not that the issue got more. I'm not necessarily convinced that the issue got more attention. I think people really are crying out for how are we going to resolve this matter, and I didn't hear much about that. That is my concern.
And my take on it is this. Again, we are asking a particular event, if you want to call it that, to achieve a whole bunch of different things. And I am not subjecting this event to that. They wanted to call attention. I do not know what their next steps are. I don't know that. But it seems as though if we say that this event was to call greater attention to the issue, somebody jumps up and says, well, he should have done this. We don't know what they're going to do next. This is one moment in time.
Yeah, well,
we don't know.
I guess our observations as critiques of their behavior is perhaps to weigh the advantages and disadvantages made as a result of doing something.
Right, and let me be clear, I'm not a Watson Duke fan. I'm not sitting here like a Watson Duke fan. Right. At the end of the day, I don't know that I would ever vote for Watson Duke per se, because I do think that some of the actions or antics are a little bit extreme and so forth. But I can separate how I feel about how I think a leader probably should conduct himself from the fact that whether or not I think that, it doesn't take away from the fact that this thing did something. You know, I watched some of the videos today, 75,000 views, this, that, blah, blah. And when you sit here and you say to me, you don't know that there were more people interested, I don't know.
No, I didn't say that.
I would say that. I would say I don't know that there were more people interested.
Well,
we don't have that data.
I don't have that data. And that's
you cannot say it as well. You cannot say that there were more people interested.
No, I can say anything. I'll be wrong. That's fine. That's fine.
We can't say it.
Right. Here's what I know. I know. Let me say this. Here's what I know. You say it. I've seen you say it online. I say it. probably Mr. Giff has said it, that people in this country do not, a lot of times they don't pay attention to the pertinent issues, right? That's one of our issues we have in the country. And then if they pay attention, they don't pay attention long enough. Now, if you go online, you could do a nice social study. You see somebody post something that is intellectual, blah, 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 they get 20 likes. Somebody posts a bunch of bacchanal, 1,000 likes. Am I lying? Am I going correct so far? Right. So
Mr. Duke has recognized that bacchanalia
let me finish
is
what I'm saying. No, you will get to twist my words after I say them. Right. No, don't ask me nothing. I'm going to say what I'm saying. You answer. You twist my words after. And what I'm saying is this. To say all that you just said there and to agree with me and then say to me that you cannot see that logically based on what you
by Mr. Duke would result in greater viewership.
You will get to twist my words after.
Sorry,
right. That you cannot see that he would have gotten attention from doing this, and you can call this bacchanal whatever you want. At the end of the day, Palos, I am almost certain, I'm sure you like Mahatma Gandhi, you probably quoted him, right?
Yes.
Right? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Well, Mahatma Gandhi in 1930 walked from, I forget where they were, to a place named Dandi in the Arabian Sea, right, to the edge of the Arabian Sea, 240 miles, because they could not, they could not produce salt because the British had banned them. And what they did, they went, they get some salt, purely symbolic, to make some salt. They didn't do anything necessarily. Didn't actually even get any results for about 17 years. But the point is, symbolism has been used over the years by all kinds of people. You may not like the symbolism, or whatever you want to call it. Me, I was okay with it. It wasn't scandalous, not to me.
I'm hearing these parallels being drawn, Mr. Giff. And when I look at it, I looked at Martin Luther King, I looked at Rosa Parks, and all these people, their action was as a result of some oppression happening in the system. We have a democratic system where the opposition and the government are supposed to work together.
Joseph,
I have missed in the space.
Don't take it for granted that in the circumstances of our existence now, especially with what's happening with the air bridge and sea bridge,
that
a vast number of Tobagonians don't feel themselves currently oppressed.
Sense of oppression. And I think that's the problem, that the politicians have recognized that they can get away with anything once they create some bacchanalia. And rather than sit and work in the best interest of all the people, they work to ensure that they can acquire greater political points.
What was the bacchanal created today by Watson and they decided to swim to Trinidad? What was the bacchanal? Tell me what was the bacchanal. Well, I was there this morning. Hold on, tell me what the bacchanal was. I decided I'm going to swim to Trinidad. How is that bacchanal in and of itself?
I looked at a small snippet. I heard that there was some inciting of a wrecker was there, and possibly the wrecker should not have been there. Some leaders from somewhere incited the people to stop the wrecker. A bottle was tossed, and I'm saying that kind of behavior, possibly,
you are talking about what actually happened today, and what I am talking about, because all the time you were saying bacchanal, you were talking about deciding to swim, and that is what I'm talking. I'm not talking about some stuff that may have happened today. How is deciding to swim bacchanal?
The situation with the wrecker,
that wrecker was stupid,
is unfortunate, because if I recall, the Commissioner of Police has it that if a vehicle was in the process of being wrecked and the owner turns up, it's supposed to be released. So I'm not sure why they would have insisted on wrecking the vehicle when all those people
I was standing right there, and let me tell you something. People haven't talked about this. I'm going to talk about it on the air. All of these people, fire officers, police officers, I mean, wrecker is not necessarily the same thing, right? But they have discretion in when they do what they do. You come there today, you see people assembled peacefully, they're not doing anything wrong or whatever, you know they're a little agitated. Instead of coming out of your vehicle and say, hey, owner of vehicle number so by so by so by so by so, here's what you decide to do. I'm going to wreck this vehicle because that is the absolute best course of action that I could take. That is what you call pure dumbness. It made absolutely no sense. And anybody who wants to tell me that he was doing his job, that person is a fool. Because I would not have done that. There was a better course of action. And that's why it almost feels deliberate, which is why now Joseph Frederick here could now come and tell you about that incident. Absolutely nothing was happening before that. It was very peaceful. And that's why I'm asking him, when he says Bacchanal, what Bacchanal? I have decided I am going to swim to Trinidad. How is that inherently Bacchanal? It is attractive. It is. You know, it's a little bit more. How should you put it? Festive than something else.
Most of the persons who were supportive of the move was saying that here was Mr. Duke putting his life at risk. Taking, you just said a better course of action could have been taken with the record. I'm saying that as a leader, Mr. Duke must show that he has the temperament for leadership, and actions like these can lead to followers throwing themselves in the water as well, creating panic and hysteria. That is Bacchanal. And that was my fear, that there were persons, innocent young people, that would have decided that here's I need to be a part of this.
Just point, gentlemen,
and just jump in the water.
And we'll go for a break now.
In today's world, they are everywhere. You have to protect yourself from persistent organic pollutants. These chemicals may be in your food, in everyday products, and in the air. They are dangerous to humans and the environment. They come from improper or excessive use of pesticides, backyard garbage burning, gas flaring, landfill fires, and runoff. But you can stop them and protect yourself and the environment. Stop open burning of household wastes. Check labels of household products to see if they contain harmful POPs. Use toxic-free alternatives when furnishing your homes. Do your part. Learn more on how you can protect yourself by checking eppd-tt.blogspot. A message from the Ministry of Planning and Development in association with the UNDP. Explore the lives of the most influential people in Tobago on the new season of the TV documentary series Community Legends. Relive their biggest achievements and their fiercest struggles.
You give them your hand and they become aggressive. Both of you die.
I would feel a little hurt to see how the people are dancing around with this internal self-government.
A new episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Tobago, Channel 5.
All right, and we're back. Gentlemen, you know, I understand that there's more to come, and one hopes that it is in the works that the activities of Mr. Duke and his party become a lot more focused on the issues that are glaringly obvious for attention, focus, and I would like to see action which says to me, if you are in office or get to be in office, this is the way you're going to handle issues, this is what you're going to be doing, you're going to be serious. Because we have been here already where one administration goes out and another comes in, and they take, what, 4 years before they claim they're ready, and we need to give them a buy for that, and then another 4 years before they're ready, and then they do this and that. I would like to see us change that cycle. And what I would like to see right now is, look, you want to be the next chief secretary, you want to have a party that supports, that has control. Well, let's get serious. The politics, you'll have enough opportunity for the political gimmickry. But there are issues that are at hand. There is something supposed to be a bill regarding autonomy for Tobago. Well, why hasn't anything been done about what has gone to Parliament? Why is it something that passed through the Tobago House of Assembly? And if so, has that been circulated for our discussion? Because we make an assumption if we think that what has gone to the cabinet is what is something that has passed through the House that we are aware of. I would like to know what it is. I would like to hear comments on it. It may well be, we may well go through a period of a year or two again, just knowing that this thing is there and thinking something about it, but that turns out not to be true.
Is it possible, this will jump in for a second, And again, I'm not in the party. I don't know what they're doing, right? But I do feel as though, to some degree, for this discussion, we keep talking as though, you know, we know what they're going to do or whatever. Because I'm not saying you do. I'm not saying you do.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying
just saying.
Right.
I'm just voicing my opinion.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What I would like to hear and see.
Right.
As the issues.
Is it possible? Is it possible at all that this issue and the way and the manner in which they did this thing here could be a sort of a pretext for them really getting into
let's hope
that particular issue with
they have
respect
gotten their first bite.
Yeah, governance for Tobago.
The politics of it.
If you listen,
the politics of it has been more titillated than any other issue, any serious issue concerning the boat. So then, okay, next time let's see what they come with. I'm just.
But is it also possible, Jason, that this first action is or was the wrong one? And the focus should have been on somewhere else where, listen, we are looking at this from this angle. Let's look at it a bit broader.
So
let's look at it a bit broader.
Sure that anything is exactly right and exactly wrong, as it were. It's politics.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure
political platform.
What measure young guy here is using to determine right or wrong. I'm really not sure. Nobody was harmed today. I don't even know how.
Well,
all right, okay.
One has to look at the intended output.
Let's ask this question.
The intention, one minute, the intention, I believe, of all the speakers in politics in the Tobago space is for us as a people to achieve this greater autonomy. That's our primary, that's the big goal.
That may be said.
Along the way.
I don't know that is true.
I am not sure.
Watson has spoken to it.
I don't care.
Watson has spoken to it. The PDP platform has spoken to it. The PNM has spoken to it. The TOP before him has spoken to it. The Forwards has spoken to it.
The idea is that lots of people have spoken about this, but I'm not sure that what they mean by autonomy is what I understand by autonomy. I need to see specifics of what they're saying. All right? I ask the question, what is it that we expect or would like to see them deal with as an issue going forward now? So, okay, they've had this day, and that has been done. What do we look forward to seeing or hearing them discuss as really critical, pertinent issues at this point in time?
For me, I would say very specifically with the situation with the boat, I would like to hear their concrete thoughts on what this boat should look like, should be like, should function like for Tobago. Because we're sitting in Tobago here waiting to get a boat, right? We're sitting there. So you did this thing here today. Let me hear a follow-up where that is concerned, and give me the lay of the land where that situation is concerned. Great, that's the boat scenario. Again, they can do other things, but I'm just giving a quick sort of a thing there. I definitely would like to hear about this governance issues of the internal self-governance for Tobago and what that could look like, and I would like to hear them pronounce on it or whatever the case may be. I really, really would like to hear that. The funny thing about it is, if you listen to Watson talk today, and again, I don't know what he's planning to do, but it sure seemed to me as though this whole thing is kind of leading into that, because he keeps talking about no longer will decisions be made for Tobago, in Trinidad, blah, 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 whatever. So maybe he's going there, maybe. I don't know, right? But I would definitely like to hear what that sounds like. As far as Joseph saying that, you know, people are definitely interested in internal self-governance because they have said so with their mouths. Quite frankly,
we shouldn't believe anything the politicians speak.
Again, you will have an opportunity to twist my words, but you have to let me finish. You have to have something to twist. So the thing about it is, I've been home now for 10 years, and I have seen no real preparation for internal self-governance. Now, I'm not one of those who argues that Tobago needs to be able to have money and produce this and that before internal self-governance. I don't argue that. I think at the end of the day, the argument for internal self-governance is that Tobago is different from another locale, and we view things in a slightly different way. I think that's the argument. But at any rate, I have seen no such preparation. In fact, what I've seen in the last 10 years since I've been home is that the internal self-governance thing is a political football.
That's correct.
That is what I have seen. So for him to tell me, and let me not say him, for Joseph to tell me that because they've said with their mouths that they're interested in internal self-governance, that means nothing to me. I don't care how many people have said anything about it.
So, Joseph, tell me, what would you expect to hear from Mr. From this gentleman?
Well, he wants to twist my words first.
No. Oh, okay. He has his opportunity to express his own view now.
Jason is playing politics. Let's allow him to play politics.
Yes, of course.
But what I would like to see, something that I've been...
Mr. Duke.
From Mr. Duke. What I would like to see is, one, clear indication to the people of Tobago that there is a serious interest, and not just for political gimmickry, but a serious interest by doing some research. As the opposition, you can do research. Give the people of Tobago, based on what the research would have suggested, the timeline for the procurement of a new vessel. You spoke to a new vessel. The timeline for the procurement of a used vessel and what the process is like. So those of us who read, and according to Jason, most of us don't, those of us who read, we can have this information and be better informed going forward. In addition, I would like to see him focus, or to make a focal point of the productivity on the island. I believe that if we are to achieve this autonomy that we speak of, we as a people must improve our productivity. What the boat issue illuminated for me was that in the Tobago space, the majority of lettuce and celery and flavor pepper and chicken foot and so forth that we use, the majority of it comes from Trinidad. And it says that here's what in our Tobago space, we in time would suffer from an erosion of our sovereignty because we are unable to feed ourselves. You can argue for oil as much as you want. We must be able to feed ourselves. So we must be able to provide for ourselves. And so I would expect, as the alternative to the government, that you are prepping the people. God forbid that you get into power. You're prepping them for that.
So what do you expect from the PNM Run Assembly? I would love to hear that.
When Christo asks this question, I know as a PDP sympathizer that you see the need to ask that question. And that is okay. You can sympathize however you like. Okay. But I'm saying that at this present time, Mr. Christo is asking the question. And I would prefer Mr. Christo asking the question.
All right. We're coming pretty close to the end of the program. So beginning with you, Jason, let me hear you on a few words on. So what's next? What would you like to see as part of the activity of the Mr. Duke and his party going forward in relation to this whole issue of the inter-island transport?
So one of the first things I would say is that, and it hurts me to say this, I actually do agree with Joseph Frederick in terms of...
It shouldn't hurt then.
Yeah, in terms of everything that he would like to see Watson and his party do. Because the truth is, and as I said earlier, I'm not a fan of Watson or Mr. Duke. And the reason is, it does feel too often that everything is a gimmick, right? It does feel like that. Though I will say, even if something is a gimmick, it can still achieve something. So I would like to see that seriousness. That's my issue. It's the seriousness that I would like to see.
All right. Joseph, what for you should be the next step for Mr. Watson?
I think the next step should have been the first step, and that is reaching out to the government and saying, here's what. We need to be included in the discussion as the PDP. We need to be included, at least one representative from the PDP. This is something that affects all Tobagonians. We represent a certain segment of the Tobago population. We should be included on whatever panel, whatever committee is being set up, so that we can hear the views of the people that we represent.
Man, I am so interested to hear what you want the PNM to do. I would love to hear that.
No, I am seriously concerned about what appears to be the silence of the Tobago House of Assembly on this issue. So far, left alone, left to his own devices, the Chief Secretary's comments in relation to the freight carrier have been woefully inadequate. That vessel turned out to be ill prepared for what it's doing right now. There are vermin on board. The one toilet for 100 passengers, things like that. No. You can't bring a vessel from so far, license it, paying 20-something thousand US a month for it, and it be inadequate. That just shouldn't happen. And in respect of the fast ferry, I mean, we have all these records there. You know what the port is doing, what the port board is doing. Why is there this big mystery as to how we came to be saddled with this dud? I mean, everybody's behaving as though they're surprised. All of a sudden, they don't know. Why is there governance? Why are there officers who have responsibilities to discharge, not discharge them? And if they're not discharging them, not upon charges. Alan Richards, I remember, and they knew how to charge him at one point in time. The point about it is, there are too many excuses, and it's not happening in the way we should. And let's hope that Mr. Duke and his party get their act together and something more significant and serious happens going forward. That's our show for this evening. I want to thank Jason Arthur and Joseph Frederick. And to you out there, well, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week for another show of HIGH5 Reloaded. Good evening, good night. Have a good night.
Explore the lives of the most influential people in Tobago on the new season of the TV documentary series Community Legends. Relive their biggest achievements and their fiercest struggles.
You give them your hand and they become aggressive. Both of you die.
I would feel a little hurt to see how the people are dancing around with this internal settlement.
A new episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Tobago Channel 5.
Pay no